The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
Obviously, we over budgeted last year. I hate to say that I was right, but I was right. So.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
And we have no way to maintain control over the spending of this program, and it will be a disaster for this state long term.
But we have a whole gamut of kids whose parents would like to do something for them and they cannot.
I take our constitutional rights, the constitutional rights of my constituents, very seriously.
This is simply about putting it out of reach of young, innocent, vulnerable children and making our libraries and schools a safe place for them to go.
And I am increasingly frustrated that we cannot stop ourselves from drinking at the public trough.
He's sounding the alarm. He's saying if we don't address these issues, we potentially might have greater problems moving forward.
Mr. Speaker, no matter how you look at it, no matter how you boil this down, there is never any time that a parent's right to govern what their children see and what they're exposed to should ever be bypassed.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
We're supposed to be bottom-up government. We're supposed to be representing my citizens' ideas and your citizens' ideas, and we're supposed to be discussing them and debating them to come to a conclusion.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Okay, well, hey, good morning, everybody. It is 10:30 up north, 11:30 in the south. It is January 9, 2025, Thursday. My name is Matt Edwards. Welcome to Idaho Signal. It's great to have you. We got a packed show again today. Boy, what a week so far. This morning in House State Affairs Committee, Representative Barbara Ehart fully presented her resolution to acknowledge the bravery and the courageousness of the Boise State women's volleyball team. And so we're going to get to clips to that later. We should be able to get Representative Ehart herself. Coach E will join us here, hopefully at the top of the hour. So please don't go anywhere for that. We don't want you to miss that. We also hopefully will have Representative Hostetler joining us too. He was also in that committee, and he also submitted a bill on school choice that we want to get into. So much to get to. So please don't go anywhere. The comment sections are open. It's great. We've been getting comments throughout the show. We'll continue to put them up on screen so that everybody can hear and listen and read what you are thinking. Of course, you can always email us at signal@citizenallianceidaho.org. And down at the bottom is that email address, as well as you can leave us a voicemail. We'll get some voicemails soon enough, and we'll play them on the air. So dial that number and leave us a voicemail. One important thing I wanted to kind of cover before we get into everything here is what we're doing, what Idaho Signal is here for. This show, it's named the Signal, Idaho Signal, for a reason, and that is to cut through the noise that takes up our everyday life. And there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of things that are meaningless distractions. There are a lot of just big, huge, major distractions that go on in the world that it's not meant to diminish their seriousness. But we have to handle those things when they come up. But as an example, the fires that are going on down in Southern California are eating up a lot of attention, as they should be, and the reasons why they're continuing to try and fight those fires. And our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who is affected down there. And I know there's many Californians in Idaho who watch this program who are probably affected by that as well. So We continue to pray for them. But when it comes to this program, the whole point is to keep you informed about what's going on with our state legislature, what's going on in the Capitol, and the daily things that affect you and your family across the state, but also to give you the tools necessary to have an impact. And these are your elected officials, and they respond when you voice your opinion. And so this is a way to sort of direct the signal, if you will, towards issues and things that matter most in our daily lives. Idaho has a particular set of shared values, and we highlight a lot of those things on our program. And we, as an organization, you can see right on our screen here, as an organization, as Citizens Alliance of Idaho, we have what we call our legislator pledge. And it's 10 statements that are all inspired by the U.S. and Idaho Constitution. And we ask legislators to sign the pledge. And there's a big misnomer going around. It's been going around for a couple of years that somehow me personally are forcing people to sign a pledge, as if they're forcing them to pay some sort of loyalty to me or to our organization. And that's simply not the case. First of all, I can't force anybody to do anything. Okay. I mean, I've got 3 little kids. I've got a wife. Believe me, it's the hardest thing in the world. If there's anybody I want to force, it would be them. And I can't do that. So the pledge, signing the pledge, is completely voluntary. And actually, when legislators do sign that pledge, they find it valuable because it's a tool that they use to inform their constituents and to inform voters and to inform people across the state of how they intend to vote on matters and issues and values that matter most to us. So that's all it is. That's all it is. It's not a loyalty pledge to me or our organization. Now, once they sign the pledge and they say that they will vote to uphold, Second Amendment rights, they won't vote to suppress free speech, they vote to protect the innocence of children. You can see it all right there at the Citizens Alliance website. That once they sign this, we keep tabs on them, and if they go off the rails, we're going to call them on it. And if you don't sign the pledge, we ask why. Why wouldn't you sign this simple pledge? It is incredible. I mean, we haven't really said these numbers on the air before, but coming into the 2025 session, I'm looking at my chart right here, and 40%, 39, is it 39? 39%, 39% of the House has signed this pledge. And as of right now, at the beginning, they're in good standing, which is great. If you're in good standing with the pledge, that's where we want you to be. So 39% of the House. And then over in the Senate, it's 36% of the Senate has signed this pledge. So you could be grateful. You could be thankful that there are legislators out there willing to sign their name to the pledge and take it on as a challenge, because it's a challenge. I mean, there's a lot of bills that come through, especially on spending and things like that take a lot of, there can be a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of groups across the state and the country rather that look at voting records and give out scores and such. We do that, but I think what we do differently here is that this is all voluntary. These are the things that they say that they would love to vote for and stand firm to vote against. And so we applaud them for it. And by doing that, we invite them on this program to share what they're working on and to empower you to help them help you. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is we're just trying to connect all the dots. So we appreciate your support in our organization, folks that donate to us. We got another great donation this morning. I opened up my email. I was like, holy cow, look at that. So we know that a lot of this stuff, what this really means. And, personally speaking, I never thought I'd be in this position. I never thought I'd be in this position. I mean, if you know me, my background, I come from the entertainment world. Like it's incredible that a lot of people have shifted their focus because of the world has been, and now we can say it quite literally, it's been on fire. And but there's a new vibe. There's a new vibe coming, and Idaho has been leading the way. And when I say Idaho is what America was, there's a reason for that. And we're going to keep going. We're going to lead this country through, and it's going to be great legislators who stand on principle, who have the political courage to sign the pledge and uphold it and move forward and work together. So so I commend everybody. I commend everybody that's a part of that. So I appreciate you listening to my rant here. And if you've got a comment, hey, check it out. Look at this. Here's another comment. This is she's been a loyal viewer so far. Please reach out to the District 31 reps. Would love to have them sign. Unfortunately, I predict hell will freeze over before that happens. Well, you never know. And that's the other thing too. If your legislators won't sign the pledge, you can keep asking them why, and they'll come up with various reasons. I've heard all sorts of reasons. We ask every single one of them. Then find someone to run. Find someone who will sign it and run against them, and we'll see what happens. And that has happened a lot. We've had many folks step up and say, "I'll sign that pledge. I'll go to Boise and I'll stand up for these rights," because all it means is standing up for your own family and for your own community. So excellent, very good. Okay, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, I believe Representative Hostetler will join us. So let's take a quick break. We'll invite him on and find out what he's doing. He's one of these brand new legislators that signed our pledge and has taken on, is going to go in there and fight for you and me. So that's what we want to see. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
That's exactly what happened. You want to pull the tape? You can pull the tape because we now got video.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among a world silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
Boom, very good. Okay, all right, we're gonna try and get Clinton here. We'll work on some technical difficulties, but we'll get him in no time. So earlier this week, Representative Barbara Ehart presented a resolution to have printed so that it could become a bill. And she was in the House State Affairs Committee doing this. And I kind of just, again, want to walk you through a little bit about how this process goes, because this is a show about action. And we had Blaine Conzatti on yesterday talking about their citizen lobbying event that they're going to be doing today down at the Capitol. They're streaming that live. That'll start in about at the top of the hour, I think. But nonetheless, I want to kind of like give you a little bit of the overview on how you can take part in this, because today was the hearing for this resolution, and this is how bills are going to go. And what happens is that a legislator will have a piece of draft legislation. They will go to the committee, and they will ask the committee to print it and make it public and make it a bill, an official bill. Then hopefully it will come back and have a full hearing. And at this hearing, and if it's on the House side, in the hearing in the House committee, the presenter will make their case, they'll present the bill, and then that is where the public is allowed to testify. You can testify in person, you can testify remotely, you can send in written testimony that gets shared with all of the committee members, and this is your chance to voice your opinion on the issue, on the bill. Once that's done, you will hopefully get a second shot at that, which is if the bill makes its way through that chamber, if it passes the House or it passes the Senate, and then it crosses over to the other side. And in this case, for the bill today, this resolution today, if it makes its way all the way to the House, it'll head over to the Senate side, where hopefully it will have a hearing there. And at that hearing will be another chance for the public to weigh in, refine their arguments, get a chance to speak for the first time if they didn't if they didn't get to in the House. Maybe there were some changes to the language, so people get to address some of the issues that may have formed in the new resolution or the new bill. And so all of that happens in this second round of public hearing testimony in the other chamber. And then it gets voted on by the committee, and then it goes to the floor for a final vote. And if it does make its way all the way to the governor, then the governor has a select number of days to either sign it into law or to veto it. And if they ignore it, then it becomes law anyway, even without their signature. And so sometimes there's pressure. We've seen this last year, I think, with the library bill, where Governor Little is, he'll run like a poll. He'll be like, "Hey, do you guys want me to sign it?" That's ridiculous. But he'll put out a call, and so you have another chance, another opportunity to talk to the governor and say, "Hey, sign this or don't sign that," and see if you get your voice heard. So I go through all of that because I want to make sure that you understand where your voice fits in this area throughout the process. What our show does, what our organization does, is I want to enhance that throughout the year so that you don't have to wait for a committee. I mean, the whole reason why we're doing media, the whole reason why we're doing a show like this is so that way we can get people's voices out there. We can highlight these crucial bills. We can get the voices of the legislators out there in order so that these things can go around and go viral, so to speak, so that you can have an effect throughout the year, throughout the session, not just in public testimony, not just in public hearing. We have to rally people all over. So whether you're on X, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, wherever you're at, I thank you for joining us. Comment, share the link, get people to subscribe, get people notifying their notifications on so that way they don't miss a thing. It is so crucial. You see what's going on down in California with these fires. People are waking up to the fact that local decisions have huge impacts, major impacts, major. It's incredible. It's incredible. And so we need to have you on. All right. Well, with that, let's get one of these champions in here. Representative Clint Hostetler out of Twin Falls. There he is, sir. How are you? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. How about on your end?
Yes. You look and sound great, sir. Well, hey, congratulations. I was talking at the top of the show here about people getting involved, and you are one of these classic citizen legislators here who said, you know what? I think I've had enough of what's going on. I think God has put me in a position to run. And not only did you run in a primary against an incumbent, but the margin was pretty big, wasn't it, Representative?
Yeah, it was a good chunk. I want to say 69 to 41, something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty hefty mandate, my friend.
I don't know, my math, brain, legislative, beginner week, but
yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So it's your first week. It's Thursday. It's your first week in the Capitol. You must have a fire hose of information coming at you, but you're coming out strong as well. You submitted a bill for school choice. You were in the State Affairs Committee this morning with that BSU women's volleyball resolution. So yeah, give us a little bit of taste of what it's been like there your first week.
Well, as I tell most people, it's been pretty daunting and overwhelming. The sheer level of emails to try and catch up with, and meetings right off the bat has been over the top. And so I'm playing catch up, and it's a constant feeling of playing catch up. But luckily, I've had enough support group around me and elders, if you will, experienced, seasoned veterans that have kind of come along beside me and helped me and warned me in advance. But it's been pretty fun. The state affairs has been pretty intense already. We're about 3 days in, I should say, and watching the amount of, like I said, intensity already as we've begun has been pretty fun. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we know school choice, something surrounding school choice is a big thing this year, and you submitted a bill yesterday or the day before. It popped up on the legislative site that is looking for tax credits for families who wish to not have their children be in public school, but to use the money that would have been used on their child in public school to be used elsewhere. Can you walk us through your thoughts on this bill and what you think and what kind of signal it sends to the rest of the legislature?
Well, really what we're calling it, and you've probably heard this quite a bit, it's the phrase used by many legislators is we want to consider this, or I want to consider this the gold standard. And what it does is really allows parents to have access to their own tax dollars. Imagine that, to decide the best route for their children. You know, most of us believe, at least on the conservative side, that we know how to educate our children the best. And of course, we know how best to utilize our own money, and especially our tax dollars. So what this bill does is essentially it sets a limit or an ability for a tax rebate for anybody who wants to take advantage of that money, and it sets a limit of $9,500 per student. And I won't get into the details of why that was chosen, but if you look at the level of cost of educating our child, you know, depending on where you're at in the state, can go anywhere from $7,500 to sometimes 11 or 12,000. So this was a good number. 250 million was the set amount allocated for this program or rebate system, if you will, and it does not pull from the education fund specifically. So that's a good thing. You hear one of the biggest qualms or griefs, if you will, of the education system and people that have a full investment into the education establishment always worry about funds coming out of this. But this is really our tax dollars back to parents who want to utilize it best for their children. So a lot of people are worried about that large cost. But I mean, we're sitting on a good little chunk of rainy day funds here, and it's really not our money here at the state. It's our citizens' money. So for them to take that money and put it into any type of education that they want for their children is the best bet. Now, if you look at programs like this across the nation, you'll notice that not all of everybody runs to jump into these systems, and not everybody takes the full amount allocated. Some homeschoolers or people that want to start homeschool pods, whatever, any type of options aren't necessarily going to take that full 95. And with that, you hear people then also talk about responsibility, right, or accountability. Well, I trust our parents. And there is the same accountability that any business would have if they were making a write-off. You may be subject to having to verify with receipts and things of that nature. So it's a really pared down, clean bill. And I could go on, but I hope that gives you a good foundation of the premise and the idea.
Yeah, no, you outlined it very well, and I think one of the things that I think people need to continue to wrap their head around is the fact that if parents are sending their children to public school, the public school, like you mentioned, may spend anywhere from $7,500 to $1,100, of state, federal, and however many dollars are out there to educate that child. And so all this type of program is doing is saying, okay, we're gonna let that money that would have educated your child be spent over here if the parent chooses that that's the best route for their child. And I think that philosophy is the thing that needs to be repeated over and over and over again, because the state right now has a constitutional mandate to educate children K through 12. And so you're simply saying, let's have the money follow the child. I mean, that's the big statement here, right?
Yeah, I mean, parental choice, school choice, call it what you want. It's our own tax dollars back in the pockets of our parents who know their child best, know how to educate best, and really have the most vested interest, right? I can spout off all these cliches, but they're cliches for a reason because they're true. And, we want to find ways to, I don't want to use the term blow up a broken system. And I believe most of us think our education system is a broken system. And this is not an indictment towards our teachers. I love our teachers. My mom was a teacher for over 30 years. Most of them really care about the kids, and that's what it takes. And they understand the pitfalls of a system, a heavy bureaucratic administrative state that's really top down from the federal level. So by injecting some sort of a shakeup, and of course, everybody's worried about that from the inside of that kingdom falling, but from the outside, looking into really what is a broken system. We cannot get away from that. We need to find a way to shake it up. And everybody's worried about shaking up an already broken system. But we need to do that. But because by pushing some levers, and unfortunately, you have to use a little bit of force to cause ingenuity and opportunity and change for the better. And that's what we're hoping this bill can do. Now, granted, I filed it as a personal bill, which means it goes right into the hopper and it stays there, because I wasn't under any illusion that this bill right off the bat, I'd be able to have a hearing and get through. So what this does is it opens a narrative. It gives the ability to point to this gold standard when we're hearing kind of illusions of grandeur from the top down, as we heard the other day about school choice, with a limited amount of money for a specific group of people with a lot of accountability. To me, that's code for we want to bolster an already broken education administration and call it school choice. This is going, I believe, if we can get this moving and get some eyes on it and maybe modifications here or there, we can re-RS it as the best option for school choice and give some parents some hope, to pull out of a system, once again, that's probably not working right now for children. We can go into statistics and all that good stuff, but that's what our hope is. And we just can't thank guys like yourself and institutions and organizations such as yourself for really helping us shine a light on legislation like this, and really concepts and ideas that are free market in principle and liberty based, and really put the responsibility and the impetus back on our families and our parents, and most importantly, our children. If you listen to our education system and the establishment, it always comes back to, but our schools, our administrations, our teachers, this, that, and the other, you rarely hear what is best for the children. We believe this is best for our children in the future.
Yeah, fantastic. Well put, man. I'm glad, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're there. This is fantastic. We knew this is what we were getting ourselves into when we first spoke maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or so on the phone. I remember the parking lot. I was in a hamburger parking lot somewhere. Anyway, well, Clint, that's fantastic. And I love that you outlined what your plan here was in filing it as a personal bill. I know we're kind of getting in the weeds here a little inside baseball, but what you're doing is basically just, you're setting the bar, you're showing the gold standard, as you say. You're showing kind of like, hey, look, this is where we want to go. And I'm going to bust down the door and just kind of like open it up and say, hey, let's start talking about it. And so I imagine, wherever we land on this situation, you are all for at least like, let's just get going. Let's get something going that helps put this stuff back in the hands of parents. So I applaud you for that. Representative, real quick, you were in the State Affairs Committee this morning. The resolution to commend the women's basketball team over at Boise State. How did you think it went today? And what are your thoughts on that real quick?
It went great. I mean, it's a fantastic idea. It's necessary. Really, moving also back to the school choice bill, what we're doing, the left has been opening, the radical left has been opening that the proverbial Overton window for a long time. What we need to start doing as conservatives and Christians and really Americans, liberty-focused Americans, is start opening that Overton window again for ourselves. And so sitting and listening into that committee meeting today was very intriguing and eye-opening. We have a lot of people that are saying, hey, we've gone far enough with some of this craziness. The fact that we're building on false narratives of terms like cisgender or a trans female, instead of things like, biological male and biological female. It's intriguing, and still to hear the opinions or narratives of the other side it's interesting. But we're doing what's right. We're doing what's right for the sport.
Yeah.
We're right for the women. We're doing what's right for our children and our future, and just objective truth and sanity. We need to bring our nation back to truth, the moral foundations and fundamentals of truth. And so we've got a lot of good people that are ready to make sure this gets pushed forward. And it may be just a resolution, but it's important. Once again, let's open that Overton window again. We had a gentleman come in and speak against it. And it's hard to listen to really a false premise and trying to build upon a house of cards of subjective truth.
Yeah. Yeah, great. All right, Representative. Well, we're going to let you go here. Where can people keep tabs on your work and get in touch with you if they need to?
Well, you can follow me on Clint for Idaho. That's my Facebook, Clint for Idaho as well, on my X handle. I just started a Substack, and I'm going to try to be a lot more vigilant in making sure I keep up with the day-to-day goings-ons, if you will. And, of course, my website is clintforidaho.com. And then you can always reach out at my legislative email if you want to harass me or just voice your opinion or whatever it is. I'm ready for it. That's the job. And that's, of course, C. Hostetler at house.idaho.gov. So
great.
But I appreciate the opportunity, brother. And once again, what you guys keep doing, I would not be here if it weren't for you and others like yourself. So I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you, sir. You just do the good work that we know you're going to do. So God bless you. We'll talk to you next time.
Likewise. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Take care. All right, folks. Very good. Very good to have him on there. I'm glad we made it happen. Also, what I'm thrilled that we're about to make it happen is if we're ready here, guys, you want to give me a thumbs up? Representative Barbara Ehart, Coach E. Coach, hey, Representative, how are you? Good to see you. Big day today. I mean, this is the culmination of a long-standing battle that you've been involved in, that you've been spearheading. And I mean, first off, before with the resolution, did you know, where were you when you heard the news that the women's volleyball team at Boise State said they will not play against that team? I mean, how did that make you feel?
Well, thanks, Matt. Great to be on here. Some people know by now, and there's certainly been FOIA and all to find out, but I was the one behind the conversation that got this started. And so because of that and the conversations that we were able to have with Boise State, I had received a call that Friday morning about, I don't know, it might even have been 6 a.m. So by the time I got it and called back, it was probably about 7:30 as Boise State was letting me know that they were going to be announcing. They thought at 9 o'clock. By the time it got announced, I think it was 3 o'clock, that they were not going to be playing the game. So I was part of the conversation, started the conversation from the beginning. And I had made a promise to Boise State, one that actually I don't know that I could have kept, but my point was I'd keep working on it, that if they would step up and do that right thing, that I'd make sure they didn't stand alone. And they didn't. I was with a couple of my colleagues from the coalition, national coalition we have. I'd been in contact with Utah State and Wyoming, and it was on Tuesday. That took place on a Friday. The following Tuesday, then had continued the conversation. It was with Wyoming, where the University of Wyoming had then stated and made the announcement nationally that they would not be playing San Jose State either. And then the next day, it was the announcement that Utah State would not be playing. And as much as we were trying to be the few people with whom I'd been working, we were not part of the University of Nevada. That was mostly icons. And with what had been happening, Nevada absolutely insisted that they are going to play that volleyball match. And it was the gals on the team, with what had been happening with Boise State, Wyoming, and Utah State. It was the gals who said, oh no, we're not. We are not going to play. And so having Nevada do that, bringing that total to 4 Mountain West teams that refused to play. The NCAA had been in contact, or Boise State, obviously having not done this before, it was new territory. They had reached out. And the NCAA, what very little they'd done right, said that they would be happy to have the games counted as a no contest. But of course, the Mountain West was not. They were upset. They were upset with what Boise State was doing. They had no idea that they'd be followed by Wyoming and Utah State, but they insisted that those contests be counted as forfeitures so that they could be included on the win-loss record for San Jose State, and as a win, of course, and as a loss for anyone else who dared defy what they were doing. So anyway, back to the original question, I knew right away.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, you're an integral part of it. It sounds like. That's great. Breaking news. That's awesome. And I'm not surprised. And you're, like I said, you've been such a leader on this. It's amazing. So real quick, when it comes to this volleyball player on the San Jose State, you know, we talk about the safety. I've seen video a couple of years ago of a volleyball player get.
That would be Peyton McNabb. Yeah, she's a friend of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, horrible tragedy. Has the player on San Jose State been involved in any of these types of injuries that we've seen so far yet, or luckily
maybe not to the extent that Peyton McNabb. So as anyone needs quick refreshing, Peyton McNabb was the high school player in North Carolina, and they were playing against a team with a biological male. And of course, let me remind everyone that when you're playing volleyball, the men actually play on a net that's 7 inches higher. So there's also an advantage. If you watch the tape of the guy that just went up and just spiked that ball, Peyton didn't have, because we're gals. Our reflexes are not as quick as the guys. And she did not react. They certainly didn't block it. And she just got pinged in the face. She's on the back row, and she just fell straight backwards, was knocked unconscious, and ended up with a brain bleed, and then also experienced paralysis on I believe that was the right side of her body, and actually to this day still has problems because of the paralysis and is not back to normal. Had to have a tutor to finish out her senior year because of her cognitive ability to function at that particular point. So, there's real damage. And so at San Jose State, yes, there had been damage, not to that extent, but there had been damage along the way. And it had gotten to the point when you listen to Brooke Slusher, who was the setter at San Jose State that had joined the lawsuit against the NCAA with Riley Gaines. Brooke would say that it had gotten to the point that so many of their own teammates had just been pinged too many times that even in practice, they wouldn't necessarily be willing to go up and try and block this male player. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So okay. So this is the issue, not just the safety issue, but also the privacy issue when you talk about locker rooms and that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. So then this resolution, which we're going to go over afterwards, we got a bunch of clips from the hearing this morning. But this resolution, tell me about what, like I said, we'll cover the resolution in the clips later, but what kind of weight does a resolution like this have in order to, not only just like keep the conversation going and highlighting the issue, but where does this let us go? Because in Idaho, you've already passed legislation that protects girls' sports to an effect. But what kind of message are you sending here with this resolution?
Well, the very first message is literally to commend Boise State for the courage that they had in doing what they did, and to also, I've said this a couple times now, but to truly exhibit the kind of integrity they exhibited. They forfeited 3 times, with the first, of course, being September 28th and in November, but the third time was during the Mountain West tournament. The Mountain West, they didn't have a runaway team in the Mountain West. And so, you could make an argument that anybody could still step up and win. So Boise State had as good an opportunity as anybody. The Mountain West was their potential to the NCAAs. And so that's true integrity when you forfeit your potential, your opportunity to the NCAAs by saying no. And so I think that they deserve to be commended, which we did. But as you get to the now therefores in this resolution, which maybe you'll address that, At the part where you are right now, we do a few things, just remind people about Title IX, what its purpose was for. And then I kind of took the opportunity to just throw out some stats that not everybody necessarily understands. But in 1972, 1 in 27 high school girls participated in sports. 1 in 27. That's not very many. And then today, after Title IX, we have 2 in 5. And that's led to like almost 1,000% increase in high school girls sports. At the collegiate level, that's a 545% increase. That's incredible. That's directly tied to what Title IX did for girls and women and opportunities. So after we kind of go through that and kind of set that stage, and, you know, again, the number of forfeitures that Boise State was willing to do, then we kind of get into the now therefores. And of course, now therefore we commend Boise State. But what the next one is, I wanted to call out the Mountain West, and a copy of this will be sent to the Mountain West and the commissioner. And so wanted to call the Mountain West out, which even Brooke Green, one of the Democrats today on the committee, did, for putting our girls in this, our women in this situation. Never should have happened. But, you know, the Mountain West, being as woke as they tried to be, somehow thought that this was good for women's sports to allow a guy to play. This is ridiculous. The other thing that we do is I also took the time to call out the NCAA and to revoke their aggressive transgender, that's their word, I don't usually use that, but student athlete participation policy. Ridiculous. And then I reminded the NCAA that when President Donald J. Trump comes in, he said that he's going to revoke the policy, or when I say he can't revoke their policy, but to make it illegal to have guys competing against gals. But if the NCAA doesn't change their policy, then that puts everybody in conflict, because we already know President Trump is going to do that. And then the other thing that I thought was very interesting, I don't know if you, Matt, or if anybody, I mean, yeah, I'm wonky, I watch this, but before Christmas, one of the Senate hearing, one of those committees that included Josh Hawley, who just grilled Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker had to appear before one of the Senate committees, and man, Josh was grilling him. Marsha Blackburn had a few things to say. But what was funny is John Kennedy. I'm sure we all like to listen to John Kennedy. I certainly do. And he was getting so frustrated with Charlie Baker because Charlie wouldn't stand up and take responsibility for anything, and instead just kept saying, well, this is why it's not happening. It's your fault, federal government, because you haven't passed a policy. And he's like, you can pass your own policy. But Charlie Baker wouldn't do it. So if anybody who watched it like me, then John Kennedy got on and he told Charlie Baker, you need to go on Amazon and buy yourself a spine. Sorry. I just thought that was so funny. Buy yourself a spine and take a stance and do what you should be doing. And so, but what I thought was important is, again, Charlie Baker was putting it off on the federal government to give him direction. And what I do in this, in part of this resolution, is I point out to Charlie Baker that if he's looking for direction, look no farther than your states. 25 states have already given him direction as far as what the NCAA should be doing in regards to women in sports. So that's essentially what this does, Matt. And is it effective? Well, look, we're talking about it.
That's right.
Is it effective? Riley Gaines got on there and the press is all over it. So is it effective? I certainly believe the resolutions can be effective. If I could, I would like to just point something else out. And sometimes we as conservatives fall in this trap and we need not to. But I was listening to the press interviewing, the person, I don't even know if it was a guy or gal, to be honest, I can't remember, that stood in opposition to this. And in the interview afterwards with the TV station, they happened to mention that we need to get to the important issues, that somehow this is important. And I've heard even conservatives do that in regards to various pieces of legislation, as though, what are we doing with this? We need to be dealing, quit wasting our time and get to the important issues. People, first off, this time of the year is a perfect time to do it. When, as far as wasting time goes, let me tell you, we're going to come in tomorrow at 8:30 so we can go up and down the order, and then we're going home. If it was a matter of time and we're wasting time, we would be there all day tomorrow. taking care of business. But everything percolates at the speed it does. And these bills are barely being introduced and coming forward. And now's the perfect time to do it. There's no wasting anyone's time. And if it's something important to the people, then it's important. So I just thought that I'd kind of point that out, because it just frustrates me to no end
Yes.
to hear the other side say that. And it really does frustrate me every now and then when our side falls into that.
Yes, that is a great point. I am so glad you brought that up. We're going to snippet that part out and share it around for sure, because you're exactly right. I mean, it's like talking out both sides of your mouth. I mean, you guys aren't doing anything. You're doing a lot of meetings or a lot of this. You're going home early tomorrow. Like if things were important, we would have had 50 bills presented on day one. Like, get going. It's like, I mean, we expect to see that at the federal level when Trump gets in, right? Day one, the first 100 hours and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, very good. Well, we know for a fact that if more legislators and more people out there had as steely a spine as you have, that we could sell them and make millions on Amazon ordering for everybody.
Yeah, I already bought my spine. No.
Yeah, no. Very good. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Representative Ehart. We're going to have you back throughout the year as well, hopefully. So have a great day and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it, Matt.
All right, take care. All right, everybody. That was it. Brian Allman is in the wings. Let's take a quick break. We'll bring him in and get his take. He was in the room today during that hearing, so we want to hear all about that. We'll be right back.
Coming from within the system, which the process in the system is broken.
Real quick, let's keep this train going. What a show today. Brian Allman is with us. He's down at the Capitol. Brian, you were in the room today during that hearing on the resolution. What was the feeling inside the room, and what can you tell us?
Well, good to be with you, Matt. It was fairly crowded for a first week of the session committee hearing. There was some news cameras in there that were taking some footage. Several people came in. Several people did get up to testify, mostly for, but one against. And I think there were others who were also against it, but they didn't get up and talk. So it was a little bit more of a, something that was getting more attention than you'd think for this time in the session. And I think that goes to show that, despite what people say, how it's not important, apparently it is important because everybody's paying attention to it.
Good point. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's not important until somebody stands up and says something and everybody is in uproar. I mean, it's incredible that argument is, you hear that all the time, and the right falls for it too, sometimes as well. But these things are important. I mean, this is our daily lives. I mean, it's incredible. I want to play you a clip here. Guys, we might have to go out of order just because we got so much from Barbara. But Riley Gaines, if everybody knows Riley Gaines, she's the swimmer who competed against Leah Thomas, or Will Thomas, the transgender person who made all those headlines. And part of the testimony here is Riley Gaines telling a little bit about her story. So let's listen to a little bit of this, and we'll see what we got.
It is a lifelong journey, but in my senior year, March of 2022, female swimmers from around the country and myself were forced to compete at our national championships against Leah, formerly Will Thomas. We watched as this male swimmer swam to a women's national title, beating the most impressive and accomplished female swimmers in the world, including Olympians, American record holders. He and I raced actually in the 200 freestyle, almost impossibly enough. We tied, meaning we went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second. But despite tying, I was denied the trophy by the NCAA because they claimed it was necessary for Thomas to hold the trophy when photos were being taken. This is what really sparked the fire under me. It was clear to me in this moment. It was clear to me, my teammates, and my competitors, my coaches even, that the NCAA had reduced everything we had worked our entire lives for down to a photo op.
Yeah,
To
this is
validate
incredible.
the feeling,
This
identity.
Yeah, it's okay. We
addition to losing competition.
yeah, let's lower her. We got enough there. Brian, when the public testimony started, or before public testimony started, there were some questions from the panel for Ms. Riley Gaines here. One of them came from Brent Crane about that specific issue with the trophy, and he elaborated it on a little bit. I want to play that clip with Brent and Chairman Crane and Riley. So let's play that and get your reaction.
Riley, I've got a couple of questions for you. Maybe this will spur some, and maybe it won't. But so you told the story about how you and Will Thomas tied, and he got the photo with the trophy. Were you ever given an opportunity to have the photo with the trophy or not?
They let me hold one, but they ended up taking it back. And when I pressed in this moment, I was pretty frustrated, right? I just competed. My adrenaline was high. My heart rate was still pumping. And so they told me, we're going to give him the trophy. Sorry, Riley, you just don't get one. You can pose with this one, but you have to give yours back. And that's when I asked the question, why? The dreaded question, really, that no one dared ask all season. I said, why are you adamant on giving this trophy to the man? And that's when they alerted me. Pretty sorry. I mean, he looked sorry. I could tell the official didn't even believe what he was about to say. And he said, very apologetic. He said, I'm deeply sorry, but we have been advised as an organization that when photos are being taken, it's crucial that the trophy's in Leah's hands. And so they took mine. They said, he will take it home. You do not take one home. We can eventually mail you one. But at that point, I didn't even want the trophy. It meant nothing to me. It had been totally devalued, defaced to nothing. If a man can win a women's trophy, it was never a trophy for a woman to win in the first place.
So just to clarify, you didn't take the trophy home?
No, sir.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. And Brian, what do you think? I mean, he's saying like the official, like he has to hold trophy. We have to have the photo in the transgender's hands. Where are we as a society?
Well, we're pretty far down at that point, but I think the tide is turning. So the whole events, the swimming contest and things, that was a couple of years ago now, and Riley Gaines has been doing a lot of great work speaking out against this, and I think helping to turn this tide, where you had the people with authority and influence in society, like directors of the NCAA and the people in the HR departments of big corporations, were wanting to push this transgender issue, push it hard, and just tell everybody get on board or get left behind. But yeah, I think a lot of the American people are standing up and fighting back. We had, Chloe Cole came out to Idaho a couple of years ago to speak out against child gender mutilation, and she's been on that beat as well. I really think it's turning. You had in the testimony, the only person to testify against the resolution was Nixon Matthews, the transgender individual who ran for legislature a couple of years ago, or last year, I should say. And Nixon said trans women are women. And this is just not a big deal because there's only like 10 transgender athletes in the whole NCAA out of 500,000 athletes. But it really is a big deal because that's 10 young women who didn't get a spot because some man decided that he wanted to play in the women's division. And it's pretty absurd. And I think Representative Vehart said it well in her testimony that the whole thing is absurd. And I think even Democrats are starting to see that there's some absurdity here and that the American people are not where they thought they were. Both Democrats on the committee, Representative Brooke Green and Todd Achilles, they voted no and they debated against the resolution, but they couched it very carefully, saying we support women, we support the women's volleyball team, we don't think they should have been put in this position, but we just worry that the way this is worded is not great. And so I feel like the tide has turned on this issue, and I'm so thankful for Representative Vehart, who has been working here for many years to push against that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught what she said at the top of her segment when she was just on. But I asked her, like, when did she find out that the BSU women's volleyball team did what they did, forfeited their game? And she said, well, I knew right away because I was I was in the back scenes talking with them about how important this would be, and the domino effect that it had with the other schools that she knew that were going on. And then when Nevada decided, I think it was Nevada decided they weren't going to do it, that the players themselves stepped up to do it. So I think you're right. The tide is changing. Riley Gaines' story is a few years ago that sparked a lot of this, obviously. But these are good signs ahead. Very good signs ahead. So now, again, this is on the House side, Allman, and we know that this bill will probably get through all the way to the floor and pass. What do you suspect will happen when it hits the Senate? I want to hear a prediction.
Well, Senate State Affairs is the place where bills went to die last year. However, I wouldn't bet against Representative Ehart in making sure that it gets heard.
That it gets heard, sure. Do you think they'll vote for it?
Oh, yeah, it'll pass. If it comes up, it'll
okay.
pass.
Okay, good.
I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, very good. Okay, and all right, we got to play this other clip here. This is, guys, let's do, I don't know if we have time to do all these. Let's start with Brooke Green, Representative Brooke Green. She's a Democrat out there in Boise. Brian, she hit every Democrat check mark on how you're supposed to talk in public. Just watch this.
First and foremost, to the ladies who testified, I hear you and I want to thank you. The courage to come forward, because I oftentimes ask us to listen to women, to respect decisions women want to make, whether it be in education, careers, their reproductive care. They are making decisions in their best interest. And I'm going to respect that just as much as I'm going to respect the women who've come before us today to testify and to tell us a little bit more about their lived experience. 100% respect that. Reason I'm not going to support this is because this does perpetrate a message that is still hurtful to a community who feels marginalized. To the mom who came to testify, I can't imagine being a mom and having to carry that message on behalf of your daughters. Women should be comfortable to speak their truths and feel safe in doing so. And for those women who are in these positions, who are having to make these difficult decisions, they don't want to be there. They want to be playing their sport. And to BSU, my no in support of this resolution, BSU knows I 100% support them all the time, almost on every issue, and I'll continue to do so. More importantly, NCAA, this rests with you. Clearly, this conversation still needs to continue. Women have spoken. Trans women athletes have spoken. Do we have it right? This issue should not be pushed to the state universities. Rather, it's something that needs to be discussed and figured out and back to the drawing table at that level. And for everyone who testified, I know how difficult this is. Women, I support all women, trans women, women athletes. You're making decisions in your best interest, and I commend you for that.
Oh, come on, man. I mean, I hear you, your truth. I support you, but I can't support you.
It really is again, to use Representative Ehart's word, the absurdity of it all. The entire left liberal philosophy is about a subjective truth. Everybody has a different truth, but also that we must listen to women and support women, but also that men who think they're women are just as women as anyone else, which I don't think anyone actually believes that. I don't think Representative Green actually believes that there's no difference between a man who claims to be a woman and an actual woman. Because that's the entire basis of what she's saying. She's saying we hear women, we support women, but then it's all a mess of contradictions and buzzwords that you learn, and if you go to the big colleges these days.
Yeah, and if she were to just speak the truth, she'll be excommunicated out of her party. Mm-hmm. I mean, sitting right next to her is Representative Todd Achilles, who we're not going to play the clip. You can go watch it yourself, but he just reads from a prepared script that he probably wrote, earlier or who knows who wrote it. But he says a couple words and then he just reads from a script, and it was kind of the same stuff over and over again. So it's
ironic that Representative Achilles is there, since he faced Nixon Matthews in the Democratic primary for District 16. So
that's true.
He's taking a position away from a transgender individual. Maybe that's marginalizing.
That's right. That cis white male dared to challenge a transgender. I don't know. I don't even know the genders anymore. But Nixon Matthews, who I don't want to say that we're picking on Nixon Matthews. Nixon keeps showing up to these public hearings. He ran for office and she lost. And I'm going to use all the genders in the world to describe that person, just to cover my bases. No disrespect. I just don't know what to do these days. Anyway, okay, great. Well, what was the other thing? Oh, let's go back to, speaking of Nixon Matthews, just so that people can know who we're talking about. Nixon Matthews testified in opposition of the resolution and had their their talking points and their statistics and all that. But Representative and Chairman Brent Crane had a quick back and forth and wanted to challenge or at least question some of the things that were being said there. So let's watch that clip.
Tell that girl that lost the spot to the volleyball player that she wasn't being marginalized or discriminated against because a biological male took her spot on the team.
So I'm going to say this. There's going to be people who feel differently about this, but trans women are women and participating in sports as women. They are meeting the standards set forward. They might lose to other folks. So let's use Leah Thomas as an example. It was kind of positioned that Leah Thomas, she is dominating sports. Well, in fact, I pulled this up. So she has not always placed first. And in fact, let's see, if she would have competed against Katie Ledecky, she would have placed 12th. Let's see, Katie Ledecky, the record holder in this event, the 500-yard meter freestyle, finished 10 seconds faster than Thomas. And according to the U.S. Swimming, she finished at the 15th fastest of 500 swimmers.
All right, it's not
Leah Thomas is not dominating sports. Trans people are not dominating sports. And
she's
so
dominating.
when you go
That's enough. She's dominating sports because he is literally competing and took a spot away from people. Doesn't matter whether or not she's winning or losing and coming in second or tying. The whole fact is that this person is in the wrong sport, is in the wrong sexist sport. And I'm sorry. But and we live in two parallel universes. This person stands up and says trans women are women.
Earlier in the testimony, I think it was when Riley Gaines was speaking, Chairman Crane asked her, where was Will Thomas when he was swimming in the men's division? And she said that he was ranked somewhere between 400 and 500 in the nation. And then he comes in and goes to the women's division, and even if he's just getting 12th place or whatever, that's still unfair. And I think everybody can see that.
Yeah. All right, Brian. Well, we know you published an article on this hearing earlier today. So where can people find that article? Where can they follow you?
Yeah, head over to gemstatechronicle.com. I published just a short article essentially summarizing my live tweets from this morning from within the committee hearing room. And also follow me at Gemstate Brian on Twitter, where I will continue live tweeting things that are going on here at the Capitol.
Fantastic. All right, my friend. We'll see you tomorrow, and good luck on the rest of the day. All right. Thank you. All right. Woo, everybody. That's a lot. We got through a lot today. What a show. Thank you so much for the comments. Again, I don't know if they've been popping up. I apologize if I didn't see any, but if we got any last one good comments, go ahead and throw them up there. I want to encourage you all to go over to idahosignal.com. And if you want to support the show, you want to help us grow, you want to help us get these things out there, that would be fantastic. I appreciate all of the donations that are coming in. We've only been on the air for a little bit this session, and they're already coming in. So I really do appreciate your support. And the other thing that you can do is just share these broadcasts. Tell people where you can find this stuff, and give us your opinion. Send us an email at signal@citizensallianceidaho.org. Leave a voicemail, and if it doesn't have any profanity and it's good stuff, we'll play it on the air. Maybe our guys know how to bleep stuff too. So those are always entertaining. Well, maybe unnecessary. Remember unnecessary censorship, where they just bleep out words to make people sound like they were cussing. We won't do that to your message. I'm sorry. We won't do. We'll play it as is. But yeah, that's the phone number there to call and leave your message, and we'll play it on the air. All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless you, and we will see you next time.
bill, I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.